Do you see her? Emily Carter is running through the narrow streets of Chicago, her heart hammering, every step echoing in the empty alleyways. The night air smells like rain and asphalt, thick with tension, and she cannot stop now. Ahead, Sarah Valentine, the pregnant sister of Lucas Valentine, the most feared Mafia boss in the city, is stumbling slightly, her hands gripping her belly as if holding on to life itself. Emily moves faster, urgency sharpening her senses. Every shadow feels alive. Every corner hides a threat. Her pulse is a drumbeat in her ears. The glow of streetlights flickers on wet pavement, reflecting the fear in Sarah's eyes. Emily reaches her, pulls her steady, whispering, "We have to move!" They navigate the maze of streets, ducking past closed shops and idle cars. The city is quiet, but Emily knows silence does not mean safety. In the distance, the faint hum of a car engine makes her tense. She glances up at a building rooftop, sees a figure disappear behind a ledge, and a chill runs down her spine. Lucas Valentine steps out from the shadows, tall, commanding, his gaze scanning, calculating, and yet there is a flicker of relief as he sees Emily protecting Sarah. She does not pause, does not question, only focuses on keeping the woman in front of her steady. Emily hears her own breath, fast and ragged, matching the rhythm of their flight. Every moment stretches, elongated with suspense, as if the city itself is holding its breath. Sarah leans into Emily slightly, trusting, desperate, a silent plea passing between them. Emily senses the weight of responsibility pressing down, the stakes higher than she ever imagined. Then, a movement in a side alley catches her eye, something subtle, almost dismissible, but she notices. She tightens her grip on Sarah's hand. Lucas is closer now, silent but protective, his presence a shield even before action. The streets twist and turn, and Emily leads, every instinct screaming alert. The night is a game of survival, each second charged with unseen threats, each decision a potential turning point. Emily feels a surge of adrenaline, a mix of fear and determination, a recognition that she cannot fail. They round another corner, and the faint sound of footsteps grows nearer, but Emily is ready to act, to protect, to face whatever is coming. Lucas signals subtly, a nod that tells her she is seen, recognized, yet not safe until the ordeal ends. Every heartbeat is a countdown. Every shadow a question. And as they reach a temporary refuge, Emily knows the night is far from over, that the choices made in these few moments will ripple into consequences she has not yet seen, and she steels herself for the next move, aware that the storm has only begun to unfold. Emily pressed herself against the brick wall, catching her breath, her eyes darting down the dimly lit alley as the night seemed to pulse with uncertainty. Sarah leaned heavily on her arm, fragile but determined to follow, her hand gripping tightly as if it could anchor them both to safety. The hum of distant traffic masked the subtle sounds of someone, or something, moving in the shadows, and Emily felt every nerve in her body tense. Lucas stood at the corner, his presence commanding, observing silently, a guardian waiting for the right moment. Emily glanced up, saw the faint glint of his watch catching the street lights, a reminder of his reach and influence, and knew that their escape had only just begun. Each step forward was measured, cautious, yet urgent, as they slipped past deserted storefronts and scattered trash bins that rattled under their weight. Emily's mind raced, weighing every turn, every corner, searching for any hint of a safe path while the adrenaline sharpened her senses. Sarah whispered a question, soft but insistent, and Emily reassured her, though her own voice trembled with the weight of responsibility. Suddenly, a door creaked behind them, a sound too deliberate to be random, and Emily froze, her heart stuttering in her chest. Lucas shifted slightly, a subtle motion, and Emily understood that he had seen it too, that they were being watched. They moved again, faster this time, their shadows stretching across the slick pavement, merging and splitting with each flicker of the streetlights. Emily could hear her own pulse, steady and loud, matching the rhythm of their flight, and felt a surge of determination. They reached a narrow passage between two buildings, a shortcut Lucas had indicated with a quick gesture earlier, and Emily realized that the night had layered threats and uncertainties over every step, each more complex than the last. A soft sound from above, almost imperceptible, made her tilt her head, her senses straining, yet the alley offered no answers. Lucas stepped closer to Sarah, his hand brushing against hers, a silent reassurance, and Emily felt a fleeting sense of hope mingled with dread. As they rounded another corner, Emily glimpsed movement in the distance, a shadow fleeting behind a fence, a whisper of presence that had not been there moments before. Her grip on Sarah tightened, the night stretching and compressing around them, each breath a countdown, each heartbeat a drum in the tense silence. The world seemed to hold its breath with them, every sound magnified, every motion weighted with consequence. Emily sensed that their journey was far from over, that each decision carried unseen ripples, and as they paused briefly in a shadowed alcove, she dared to wonder if the path ahead would demand more than courage, more than speed, more than she had ever imagined possible. Emily pressed Sarah into the corner of the narrow passage, her chest rising and falling, breath catching with each rapid inhale as the tension of the night pressed in from all sides. Lucas stepped closer, his presence like steel and shadow, scanning every line of sight, calculating every movement, yet his eyes lingered on Emily with something unspoken, a silent acknowledgement of courage mixed with worry. Sarah whispered, her voice trembling, "Are we going to make it?" Emily could not answer immediately, not with the weight of responsibility clawing at her chest, not with the distant echo of approaching footsteps that seemed to wrap around the walls themselves. The alley felt smaller now, tighter, constraining, yet each heartbeat urged her forward, and she guided Sarah toward a flickering fire escape, the cold metal under her hands grounding her in the immediacy of action. Lucas followed, silent but vigilant, signaling subtly for her to keep moving, to trust in the rhythm of their coordinated flight. Emily's mind raced through scenarios, every option weighed against the potential consequences, and in that mental calculation, she recognized the stakes. Every choice could ripple outward, changing lives, shifting power, unraveling safety. A sudden movement caught her peripheral vision, a shadow detached from the darkness, and Emily's pulse leapt. Her body responded before thought, stepping protectively in front of Sarah, eyes wide, muscles taut, heart thundering. Lucas's hand brushed hers in a brief contact, almost a reassurance, almost a warning, and she felt the depth of what had been entrusted to her, the fragile balance between courage and recklessness. The alley twisted and turned, the cityscape blurring as they moved, and Emily noticed details she had not before, the cracked windows, the distant neon sign flickering, the quiet drip of water from a rooftop gutter, all elements of the environment converging into a living map of danger and opportunity. Sarah clutched her arm tighter, a silent plea, and Emily responded instinctively, adjusting their path, anticipating the unknown. Each moment layered tension upon tension, and Emily sensed the invisible lines of power stretching through the streets, connecting Lucas, the Valentine family, and herself in ways that demanded vigilance, loyalty, and daring. As they reached the threshold of a larger street, the faint glow of an unfamiliar figure watching from a distance made Emily pause, her instincts screaming that the night held more than pursuit, that secrets waited in the shadows, and that what had seemed like immediate survival was only the first challenge. Lucas's gaze locked with hers, steady and commanding, and in that glance, Emily understood that their choices tonight would resonate far beyond this alley, shaping trust, power, and fate itself. And as she took a cautious step forward, she noticed an envelope tucked under a loose brick in the wall, marked with a seal she did not recognize, hinting at information that could unravel everything, leaving her with the realization that the night's dangers were only beginning to reveal their true depth. Emily paused at the edge of the dimly lit courtyard, her chest heaving, eyes scanning every shadow as the night seemed to tighten around them. Sarah clutched her arm, sensing Emily's hesitation, yet trusting her instinctively, a fragile lifeline in the midst of uncertainty. Lucas stepped closer, the weight of his presence pressing into the space around them, a silent authority that commanded both fear and reassurance. Emily's mind raced, torn between guiding Sarah to safety and uncovering the truth behind the envelope she had found moments before. Every decision felt monumental. Every choice carried consequences far beyond what she had imagined. The air vibrated with tension as distant footsteps echoed, hinting that they were not alone, that the city itself had eyes watching. Lucas's gaze met hers, steady, unwavering, and Emily felt the unspoken challenge in it: act wisely or risk unraveling the fragile balance of trust they had built in mere minutes. Sarah shifted, unease flickering across her face, and Emily whispered, "We cannot hesitate now." They moved, each step deliberate, yet charged with urgency, winding through narrow passages, past graffiti-stained walls and flickering streetlights that cast distorted shadows. Emily felt the stakes intensify with each breath, the weight of responsibility pressing her forward, compelling her to anticipate threats before they materialized. Lucas adjusted his pace, a subtle motion, signaling her to lead, yet reinforcing the silent barrier between danger and protection. Emily sensed a shift in the dynamic, an acknowledgement of her capability mingled with the reality of the perils surrounding them. Her heart raced, mind alert to every faint sound, every flicker of movement, understanding that the night had layers of threat she had yet to perceive. The envelope burned in her pocket, a tangible promise of secrets that could shift power, revealing alliances, betrayals, and decisions that would echo far beyond the present moment. A faint figure appeared across a rooftop, barely noticeable, yet the intensity of the gaze was undeniable, and Emily's pulse quickened. Lucas's hand brushed against hers, a fleeting yet grounding connection, reinforcing the understanding that their fates were intertwined, yet demanding that she act decisively. The alley opened into a wider street, lights reflecting off wet asphalt, and Emily weighed the decision: continue with caution, or confront the unknown head-on. She took a deep breath, feeling both fear and resolve fuse within her, knowing that the next step could redefine safety, loyalty, and trust. As they paused, assessing the path forward, the figure on the rooftop shifted again, revealing just enough to remind Emily that the night held more secrets than she had anticipated, and that the choice she was about to make could change everything for all of them. Emily and Sarah finally reached a small alcove illuminated by a flickering lamppost, the wet pavement glistening beneath them, reflecting both light and the weight of the night. Emily pressed herself against the wall, feeling the tension in her limbs as she tried to steady Sarah, whose breathing was shallow, her hand trembling slightly. Lucas stepped forward, his presence grounding and yet commanding, and Emily realized in that instant how fragile the balance between fear and trust had become. He nodded subtly, a gesture that carried authority and reassurance, and Emily felt a shift deep within herself, a recognition that her actions had earned not just his attention, but his confidence. The envelope she had found now seemed heavier in her pocket, a secret she had not yet revealed, yet it seemed intertwined with their survival, a key to understanding the invisible threads connecting them all. Sarah whispered a question, uncertain yet insistent, and Emily responded with calm clarity, though her own heart raced. "We have to trust each other." Lucas's gaze lingered, assessing, measuring, and in that quiet exchange, a new dynamic emerged, one that blurred the lines between protection and reliance. The alley stretched before them, narrowing and turning sharply, and Emily led, conscious of the weight of responsibility pressing against her chest. Every sound, distant engines, the hum of neon signs, the faint drip of water, felt amplified, each a reminder that they were being watched, that the world beyond the immediate shadows was fraught with stakes far higher than the alley itself. Emily sensed the gravity of her choices, the way each decision could ripple outward, impacting not just Sarah's safety, but the fragile trust she was building with Lucas. As they moved, the night seemed to respond, the faint rustle of leaves, the subtle shift of shadows, all urging her forward yet warning her of unseen consequences. Lucas's hand brushed against hers briefly, almost imperceptibly, yet Emily felt it, felt the acknowledgement of competence, the silent respect, and a hint of reliance that had not been there before. They paused at the threshold of a broader street, and Emily scanned the surroundings, noticing a figure half hidden behind a parked car, watching, waiting, a reminder that the night was not done testing them. The sudden realization of how deeply connected their fates had become struck Emily, a spike of both fear and determination, and she made a decision in that heartbeat, knowing that the next step would define not just survival, but the very nature of their bond. Lucas shifted his stance, subtly signaling readiness and patience, and Emily understood that the coming moments would demand courage, clarity, and the willingness to confront truths that had been hidden until now, setting the stage for a choice that could change everything. Emily led Sarah into a narrow side street, the shadows thickening around them, each flickering light a reminder that they were exposed, that every step could carry unseen danger. Her chest heaved with exertion, and a tight knot of anxiety tightened in her stomach as she realized the choices she had made. Moments before were cascading into consequences she could not yet predict. Lucas followed closely, his presence an unspoken anchor, and Emily felt the strange shift in their dynamic, a mixture of reliance and scrutiny that weighed heavier with every step. Sarah's breathing was shallow, and Emily could sense her own worry reflected in the younger woman's trembling hands. The envelope in Emily's coat pocket seemed almost to pulse, a secret tethering her decisions to outcomes she could not fully control. Ahead, the street opened into a small plaza, and Emily noticed subtle movements at the far edge, figures lingering, observing, blending into the night, as if the city itself had conspired to test them. She stopped, glancing at Lucas, and he nodded once, a slight but clear signal that she was correct to be cautious. Emily's mind spun with possibilities, each scenario carrying higher stakes, each choice balancing survival against exposure. A sudden sound, a low scraping, almost imperceptible, made her freeze, Sarah's hand tightening around hers, and in that heartbeat, Emily felt the full weight of responsibility pressing down. She realized that her actions had shifted something fundamental in the alley, in the way Lucas looked at her, in the way Sarah depended on her instinctively. The air seemed heavier, charged with anticipation, each shadow concealing a question, each light flicker a warning. Emily adjusted her pace, leading Sarah toward a narrow stairwell that promised temporary cover, but the feeling of being watched intensified, a sharp prickling at the back of her neck. Lucas stepped closer, brushing against her arm in a fleeting gesture of connection and caution, and Emily felt both reassurance and the pressure of expectation, knowing that failure here would ripple through consequences she could not yet fathom. They ascended the stairs, each movement deliberate, and Emily's pulse raced as she felt the tension tighten like a vice. At the top, a small landing opened to a wider street, but Emily's breath caught when a figure appeared at the corner, partially illuminated by a street light, observing, unmoving, intent, a silent herald of threat or revelation. Every instinct screamed danger, yet there was also the subtle hint of something to be discovered, a secret lying in wait for those brave enough to confront it. Emily's heart thundered, her mind sharpening, and she understood that the night was shifting again, that the choices she had made were leading her toward a pivotal moment, one that would demand courage, clarity, and the willingness to face the unknown directly. Emily froze as they reached the center of the open street, her senses straining, every shadow now a potential threat, every light flicker amplifying the stakes. Sarah gripped her arm, silent but tense, and Emily felt the full weight of responsibility pressing down, a surge of urgency that made each breath feel electric. Lucas stepped closer, his eyes scanning the surroundings with measured precision, yet they lingered on Emily, a mixture of acknowledgement and challenge passing in his gaze. Emily realized in that instant that their fates were intertwined, that the trust she had begun to earn was fragile, built on moments of courage and instinct alone. A sudden sound, a soft scuff from behind a dumpster, made her spin, pulse hammering, and she instinctively placed herself between Sarah and the unknown presence, heart pounding with fear and determination. Lucas moved to flank her, a protective barrier without words, reinforcing the unspoken pact of reliance and survival. Emily's mind raced, weighing the choices ahead, each option layered with consequence, every step a negotiation between caution and necessity. The city around them seemed alive, walls echoing with tension, the distant hum of traffic a constant reminder that they were exposed. Emily adjusted her grip on Sarah's hand, whispering guidance while her eyes darted to the edge of the street, where a shadow shifted with uncanny awareness, observing, calculating, waiting. In that heartbeat, Emily understood the depth of her actions, the delicate balance between fear and courage, trust and exposure. Lucas's gaze flickered to hers again, brief, sharp, laden with a weight she had never encountered before, and she felt the subtle shift in their relationship, a recognition of her resilience and the newfound dependence he placed upon her. They moved again, cautiously, swiftly, each footstep echoing through the narrow expanse, and Emily sensed that the night had raised the stakes, that the decision she made now could not be undone, could ripple through consequences she could not yet foresee. As they reached the threshold of another alley, Emily's eyes caught a faint glimmer near the corner, a sealed envelope, partially tucked under a loose grate, the wax seal bearing a symbol she did not recognize. Her heart skipped a beat. She realized that the choice to investigate or ignore it would change everything, not just for her, not just for Sarah, but for Lucas as well. A cold gust swept through the street, carrying with it the weight of uncertainty, and Emily made the decision instinctively, stepping toward the envelope, fully aware that in this instant, the night had set the stage for a turning point, one that would demand courage, clarity, and a willingness to confront the hidden truths waiting in the shadows. Emily carefully picked up the envelope, her fingers trembling slightly, and felt a chill crawl up her spine as she broke the seal, revealing the first hint of secrets that would change everything. The night around them seemed to still, the city noise fading into a muted hum, leaving only the pounding of her heart. Sarah looked over her shoulder, curiosity and unease warring in her eyes, and Emily handed her a glimpse, just enough to let her see the words without fully understanding. Lucas leaned in, his gaze intense, and Emily could feel the subtle shift in their relationship, the weight of responsibility now shared, a fragile trust teetering on the edge of revelation. The words on the paper spoke of alliances and betrayals, of power plays hidden behind friendly faces, and Emily realized that her actions had inadvertently drawn them deeper into a web far larger than the alleyways they had navigated. She felt a pang of fear for Sarah, knowing that the younger woman's reliance on her was absolute, and yet a spark of determination ignited within her, fueled by the awareness that retreat was no longer an option. The distant hum of a car broke her concentration, followed by the soft echo of footsteps on wet pavement, reminding them that they were still being watched. Lucas shifted slightly, protective and alert, his eyes flicking toward Emily, conveying silent questions and expectations. Emily met his gaze and felt the surge of connection, a mutual acknowledgement of the dangers ahead, and the unspoken agreement that they would face it together. As they moved forward, each step measured yet urgent, Emily could sense the stakes climbing, each shadow now a potential challenge, each corner a possible revelation. The alley opened into a small courtyard, the dim light revealing subtle signs of prior presence, objects slightly disturbed as though someone had passed moments before. Emily's heart raced with a mix of anticipation and apprehension, aware that their journey had crossed the threshold from immediate survival into navigating the labyrinth of intrigue surrounding the Valentine family. The air seemed heavier here, every sound amplified, every shadow a story waiting to unfold. She felt the subtle pull of power shifting between them, Lucas's quiet authority, and her own emerging confidence intertwining in an unsteady dance of dependence and influence. Sarah squeezed her hand, and Emily felt the burden of guardianship heavier than ever, each decision now layered with consequence and emotion. A faint rustle from the edge of the courtyard drew Emily's attention, a reminder that the night held more secrets than they could grasp, and as she glanced at Lucas, she realized that the envelope was only the beginning, that every choice they made from this point forward would reverberate with the hidden truths yet to be unveiled, leaving them standing on the precipice of discovery and uncertainty, suspended in a silence that carried its own weight of unanswered questions. Emily held the envelope tightly, feeling its weight not just in her hand but in her chest, the information inside shifting the entire landscape of what she thought she knew. Lucas leaned in, his expression unreadable, yet there was an unmistakable tension in the way his jaw tightened and his eyes narrowed, a silent acknowledgement that the contents were far more significant than expected. Sarah clutched Emily's arm, sensing the subtle change in energy, her gaze flickering between the two as the alley seemed to constrict around them, every shadow now charged with implication. Emily carefully unfolded the paper, revealing details of hidden alliances, secret betrayals, and decisions made long before they had entered the night. Her heart pounded as realization dawned. The power she had assumed belonged solely to Lucas was not absolute, that others had moved pieces on the board without them, and that their survival depended on understanding these unseen forces. Lucas's hand hovered over hers briefly, a protective yet warning gesture, and Emily felt the shift in their dynamic, a blend of respect and shared vulnerability, the balance of power no longer one-sided. The street around them seemed quieter, yet every sound, the drip of water, the hum of a distant engine, felt amplified, as if the city itself waited for the next move. Emily's mind raced, connecting dots, anticipating consequences, and she realized that the choice to reveal the envelope's secrets or withhold them could redefine trust, loyalty, and survival. Sarah leaned closer, whispering a question that Emily could not answer, the weight of uncertainty pressing on her, making each decision feel monumental. Lucas's gaze never left Emily, a silent challenge, and she understood that the night had turned, no longer simply an escape, but a test of judgment, courage, and perception. Every step they had taken, every moment of trust and reliance, had led to this turning point, and the envelope now represented both danger and opportunity, a catalyst that could either consolidate their fragile alliance or unravel it entirely. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the stakes climbing higher, the alley stretching and bending in the darkness, and in that instant she realized that the next decision would not just affect them tonight, but could change the trajectory of all the lives intertwined with the Valentine family. The sudden flicker of movement at the far end of the street made her flinch, a figure emerging briefly from shadow, observing with intent, a silent signal that the game had shifted, that control was no longer in one hand, and that everything they thought was secure could unravel with a single choice. Emily and Sarah stepped onto the open plaza, the city lights reflecting in puddles, each step echoing in the still night, magnifying every sound, every movement. Emily's grip on Sarah's arm tightened instinctively, her pulse thrumming, a storm of fear and determination coursing through her veins. Lucas moved beside them, his presence solid and unyielding, yet his eyes never left Emily, silently measuring, silently testing, as if weighing every decision she made. The envelope's contents had shifted everything, and now the stakes felt unbearable, as if a single misstep could undo every hard-fought advantage. Shadows moved at the edges of her vision, fleeting but deliberate, reminding Emily that the night held watchers, observers, forces she could not yet name. Sarah's whispered question broke through her thoughts, and Emily responded with steady breath, though inside her mind raced with possibilities, weighing the consequences of every choice. The plaza seemed to stretch endlessly, a maze of light and dark, each corner hiding potential revelation or peril. Lucas's hand brushed against hers briefly, a gesture of reassurance and caution, and Emily felt the subtle reversal of power, a recognition that her courage now carried weight, that her instincts were relied upon, that she was no longer merely a follower but a participant in the control of events. Each heartbeat heightened the tension, the night pressing in from all sides, and Emily understood that the final decisions were approaching, that trust, survival, and truth would converge in a single moment, demanding clarity and courage. Her eyes caught movement across the far edge of the plaza, a figure half hidden, observing, waiting, and Emily felt the sharp spike of adrenaline, a reminder that exposure came at a cost. Lucas shifted, signaling readiness and patience, and Emily sensed the delicate balance of power shifting subtly between them, a dance of reliance, responsibility, and potential sacrifice. Every sound, every flicker of shadow, amplified the urgency of their actions, and Emily felt the tension coil tighter with each breath. The envelope burned against her side, a tangible symbol of secrets, decisions, and consequences that could no longer be ignored. She glanced at Sarah, seeing trust mingled with fear, and realized the weight of her role, the necessity of decisive action. The plaza stretched before them, illuminated by the stark glow of the streetlights, each step forward fraught with unseen risk, and Emily felt the tension peak as she prepared to act, knowing that the next choice would determine the path of survival, allegiance, and revelation, leaving them on the precipice of a moment that could change everything in an instant. Emily stepped back from the envelope, her hands trembling slightly, yet a sense of clarity had settled over her. Sarah looked at her with wide eyes, a mixture of relief and awe, and Emily realized that the night's trials had forged a bond that could not be undone. Lucas's expression softened, the tension in his shoulders easing as he acknowledged the courage and insight Emily had demonstrated. The shadows of the alley now seemed less oppressive, the city noises distant, as though the world had momentarily paused to allow them a breath, a moment of reckoning. Emily felt the weight of responsibility lift slightly, replaced by a profound sense of accomplishment, and she looked at Sarah, seeing trust solidified in the younger woman's gaze. Lucas stepped closer, not to command, but to stand beside her, and Emily sensed a subtle realignment in their relationship, a recognition of mutual reliance that had deepened through shared danger and decision-making. The envelope remained in her hand, a symbol of secrets revealed, of choices made, and of the unforeseen consequences that had now been met with resolve and understanding. Emily exhaled, feeling the rush of adrenaline slowly ebb, replaced by the quiet hum of reflection, and she realized that while the immediate threat had passed, the lessons of the night, the courage, the trust, the clarity under pressure, would linger far longer, shaping every step she took moving forward. Sarah smiled faintly, a light in the dark night, and Emily felt the emotional resonance of having protected someone while discovering her own strength. Lucas's eyes met hers once more, not with scrutiny, but with acknowledgement, a silent promise that their alliance had evolved, that power and trust had found a new balance. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the rhythm of the city around them, understanding that danger had not vanished entirely, but that she had gained insight, resilience, and a bond that could endure. As they turned toward the path leading away from the plaza, Emily's mind lingered on the choices, the consequences, and the quiet courage required to navigate them. The night, though still full of unknowns, seemed less like a threat and more like a testament to what could be achieved when fear met determination, when reliance met courage, and when choices, however difficult, were met with conviction. A subtle smile crossed Emily's face, and she realized that even in darkness, a single act of resolve could illuminate a path forward, leaving an echo of hope and strength that would resonate long after the night had passed. Emily stepped into the quiet street beyond the plaza, the night still lingering but the weight of tension slowly shifting into a reflective calm. She felt the subtle ache of exhaustion, the remnants of adrenaline that had propelled her through the alleyways, and yet within her chest, a new strength had emerged, forged through the choices and sacrifices of the night. Sarah walked beside her, steadier now, her trust evident in every glance, a silent testament to the bond that had grown between them through danger and uncertainty. Lucas followed, observing, yet allowing space, a subtle acknowledgement that Emily had proven herself, that the balance of power and reliance had evolved, and that he now regarded her not only as an ally but as someone capable of carrying weight in a world built on control and caution. The envelope remained in her hand, a reminder of secrets uncovered and the complexity of decisions that had reshaped relationships and revealed hidden truths. Emily reflected on the cost of courage, the fragile thread of trust, and the understanding that survival had demanded more than instinct. It had required judgment, empathy, and a willingness to face uncertainty with clarity. The city around them hummed quietly, the distant glow of lights illuminating reflections on wet asphalt, each step forward a slow affirmation of their resilience and newfound connection. Emily felt a shift in herself, a recognition of growth, of perspective gained from the choices made in moments of fear and responsibility. Sarah offered a faint smile, gratitude and reassurance in her eyes, and Emily realized that the impact of her actions extended far beyond immediate survival. It had created a space for trust, courage, and interdependence to flourish. Lucas's gaze met hers, steady, measured, a silent communication that spoke of respect and acknowledgement of the journey they had navigated together. The night's events had left marks not visible on the skin but etched deeply into their awareness, shaping perceptions, alliances, and the way they would move forward. As they continued down the street, Emily sensed that the envelope, the choices, and the relationships forged this night were only the beginning of consequences and revelations yet to come, a reminder that growth and understanding often carry a quiet but enduring weight, leaving an echo of thought that would linger long after the night had faded into dawn. Emily stood at the edge of the quiet street, the city lights reflecting off the wet pavement like scattered stars, and felt a calm settle over her that had been absent all night. Sarah walked beside her, steadier now, the tension of fear slowly giving way to trust, a bond solidified through the shared trials they had faced. Lucas remained nearby, silent but watchful, his presence a reminder of the weight of power balanced with the recognition of courage. Emily held the envelope one last time, feeling the gravity of secrets now revealed and the clarity that came from confronting the unknown. Each choice, each moment of hesitation or action, had led to this point, where fear had been met with determination, uncertainty met with insight, and danger met with courage. She glanced at Sarah and then at Lucas, sensing the unspoken acknowledgement that the night's challenges had transformed not only their understanding of one another but also the contours of trust, loyalty, and respect. The air was still, the distant hum of the city fading into a subtle rhythm, and Emily felt the enduring echo of the night's lessons, the cost of courage, the weight of responsibility, and the clarity that emerged when choices were faced with resolve. Sarah smiled faintly, a quiet reflection of relief and gratitude, and Emily understood that their bond, forged in moments of danger and decision, would carry far beyond the alleys and streets of that night. Lucas's eyes met hers, steady, measured, conveying trust, respect, and a recognition of the strength that had emerged from fear and uncertainty. Emily felt a profound sense of accomplishment, tempered by the awareness of the journey still ahead, and knew that courage and wisdom were not fleeting traits but enduring ones, cultivated in moments that demanded both heart and judgment. The night around them seemed to exhale, a gentle acknowledgement of trials faced and challenges met, and Emily realized that every step, every decision, and every act of trust had left an indelible mark on their lives. As they moved forward into the soft glow of the early morning, the envelope now secure, the streets quiet, Emily carried with her a deep understanding that bravery was measured not just in action but in the clarity of conscience, the willingness to face uncertainty, and the strength to protect those who could not protect themselves. She breathed deeply, feeling the weight of experience and the lightness of triumph, and in that moment understood that true courage was quiet, resilient, and enduring, leaving a lasting echo that would shape all the choices yet to come.